Hey guys, in my last video I said I would tell you about the most painful event in my life happened a day before my son was born. So before I start telling you this little story, because I think this story speaks a lot for why meditation is important or can be important in life, but also we had, without any shadow of a doubt, a visit from, some would say, a spirit animal, and I would just simply say an angel whispered at the right little being at the right time. Now, health-wise, I want to say something. I did some research and I had no idea that root canals are quite possibly the most unhealthy thing you can do for your body. If you struggle with any sickness, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, any of those things, anything, if you're feeling fatigued and you have root canals, get them checked out and get them taken out. There's rarely an instance where it's healthy to have them in. And I went all out at the dentist. I had, as I told you before in my other video, I had 3 teeth from birth like that, and one had a root canal. I've only had 1 root canal in my life, and the other 2 had fillings. But when I fasted, my body spat the fillings out, and I said, I know the body rejects that which is least useful when you're fasting, so these teeth were a problem. So I, after my research, said to the dentist I want them pulling out, and I've got a gap here, but I don't know how that'll be filled. By the grace of God, maybe he'll do something, I hope, anyway. But I asked for them to be pulled, and I have another tooth with a filling where I fell and chipped it, and I've asked that to be pulled as well, because I just don't want any mercury in my mouth. So that out the way, if you were struggling with anything like that, check it out and get your root canals taken out, even if you've got gaps in your teeth. It's better, I feel, it's better for me to have energy than to have something and have a gap in my mouth somewhere, possibly, or have a fake tooth in there, than to have something constantly poisoning your bloodstream, which is exactly what nearly all root canals have been proven to do. They've even been linked, root canals are very heavily at this point, to the point where they're nearly certain that they are linked to breast cancer in women. So these things are dangerous, they're actually very dangerous. So I went to the dentist to have this done, and I'd never had any teeth pulled out before. So she injected me and she took 2 teeth out, and I was awake, I didn't go to sleep, and Fritzy was sitting with me. And she started on the 3rd tooth, which has the deepest root, and that was the one with the root canal. She did that one last. So first 2 were fine. This one, she put anyone's ever had teeth out, like a screwdriver into the tooth and twisted it into the tooth, and I felt everything. And I stopped her and I said, "This hurt like hell. I can feel it." And she said, "I'm sorry, let me inject you again." And she injected me again, but now she traumatized the tooth in a big way, and the pain was unbearable and the injection didn't work. And what had happened, the infection had spread from the tooth into my jawbone, so the inflammation was pushing the anesthetic away, so there was no anesthetic getting to the tooth, it wasn't getting numbed. And I was in agony. I can imagine someone's put a metal tool into the middle of your tooth and twisted it into the tooth and traumatized it, and then the pain relief's not there. So even when no one was touching it, I was in so much pain. And my son was due to be born the following day. I said, "It's hurting so much, what do we do?" And she said, I've reached the legal limit of anesthetic. I'm not allowed to inject you with any more pain relief. Now, I'm not playing the tough guy, but I'm okay with pain. I'm fairly good with it. I'm not, probably due to meditating, a lot of it is how I see it. I'm not the sort of person who complains and makes a big fuss about pain. I feel pain like anybody else, but I can control my mind's reaction to the physical body quite well from all the meditation and fasting, etc. that I've done, do a bit of mind over matter, as it were. So I said to her, "My son's born tomorrow, can you not just try one more injection?" She said, "No, because if you react and you die or something, I in a lot of trouble. And I knew then what was about to happen, because this thing was hurting unbelievably, and my son's supposed to be born the next day, and I wasn't going to go home and have a sleepless night, and I realised that she was going to have to pull this tooth out of my head whilst I could feel it. And I should make a disclaimer, this is not something that happens regular, that even the dentist, this poor woman, was quite traumatised by it all, as was Fritzy and probably me somewhere inside me. I was shuddering on the night actually thinking about it. So we had to make a decision that we would take it out without any pain relief, and it was, I'm not exaggerating, it was the most painful event of my life was having that tooth pulled out. You just imagine someone wriggling your tooth. God, I'm just thinking about it. Or wriggling your tooth backwards and forwards, and you can feel all of it. But she's wriggling the tooth here, and I can feel it down here in my jawbone, because the infection in the jawbone, the root of the tooth is in there. So she's wriggling and pulling, and I knew I had to put up with it for a few minutes until she got it out, and she was working as fast as she could because she knew I was in a lot of pain. And this is where meditation came in, because I sat with my hands like this, and it was like a horror movie. I laid in a chair feeling like I was in a horror movie, like I was being tortured, because I could feel a tooth being pulled out of my head bit by bit, and I began to pull all of my energy into my heart chakra, because that's the place where you can find the most peace and disconnectivity from your body. Now, if I ever was going to describe an enlightened feeling or nirvana, I'd say it's like living a few inches outside of your body. And I've lived like that in Tanzania, and it's very beneficial to get stuff done in a traumatic environment. But also at the same time, you can lose connectivity to your body. And I'm going to do videos about all of this, and the problems we have with detachment, etc., when we embrace it too heavily, or the problems we can have when we have traumas around us and we use it. And it's like living a few inches outside your body. And so you feel very light, and you don't get as much, you don't notice as much what's going on in your body. So I was pulling myself in there like that, but my whole body began to shake with the pain, because it was just unbearable. And then finally I felt the whole tooth coming out of my jaw, and I knew it was finally over. And bit by bit, and about 30 seconds later, I felt it leave everything. I could feel all of it, every separation of the ligament, and it was just all of it. I could feel it. It was so unbelievably, disgustingly horrible. So when this had finished, Fritzy was in absolute shock. And the lady working with us was, the nurse, not the dentist, was in shock as well, the old lady, because she hadn't seen it before either. And the dentist was a bit shook up as well. But I was grateful, because I told her, if my son's born tomorrow and I had a raging toothache, it would have ruined one of the most magical days of my life. And sure enough, he was born the next day. So had I left that in and not gone through with it, it would have ruined his birth. You know, when you're in pain, it doesn't matter what's going on. If you're in pain, that's what your body's telling you. Hey, I'm in pain. It just spoils events for you. So we left the dentist anyway, and I was feeling pretty shocked by what I'd gone through, and I was in a lot of pain. And Fritzy, though, was more noticeably in shock, because she'd had to watch it, whereas I'd been disconnecting. She was watching, and she was very close to tears. I'm sure that might have played a role in Aslan being born. But when we came out, we were walking through the streets of Hamburg, and randomly, from nowhere, you know, whenever I'm upset in Tanzania, my dogs are my go-to. I never go to people with my problems very often. I don't recall the last time I physically went face-to-face to a person with a problem, because I think we've all got enough problems of our own to deal with, so why burden others with your problems as well? I can turn to God, and if I need a hug, I've got my wife, and if I need a bit of time with just some pure love, then I've got my dogs. And I find animals very healing, and I think most of us do. But I don't have a dog here, and this is always a difficult thing for me. And I walked out of the dentist and down the street with Fritzy, and this cat came walking out from nowhere, and walked straight across the street and up to me and started rubbing its head against my legs in the middle of the street. And I've never seen this cat before in my life, so I crouched down and it was so affectionate with me and so loving with me. And it was just very healing for me. It just totally lifted me and put me in a very nice space. And Fritzy said it's an angel cat. It's got to be an angel cat, you know, or like, as I always say, angels are photons travelling on angles of light, and it went into that little being at that time and said, hey, go that way. And I've had animals send me messages in the past, as many of you know. I have my spirit bird, which shows up often. I have... there's owls, actually. I have a big thing with owls in my life as well. I often see very rare animals wherever I go. I always end up seeing them. They just seem to appear and fill me with so much love and joy when they do. And I've had the birds when I had people do extractions, spiritual and I'd come under some sort of spiritual attack. I saw immediately after one extraction, I saw a chicken killing a snake. You can see that in my video about spiritual attacks. And then on the other one, just last year, I had that huge bird, which I've never seen before, pick up a serpent, throw it on the floor and kill it in front of me. And I get these interactions anyway with animals, and this cat just loved me, just for 5 minutes, just totally loved me on the street, and then wandered off and just did its own thing. So I saw it as a healing thing from spirit to say, yeah, that was pretty rough. So yeah, have a little bit of pure energy to help you through the rest of the day. So that's what happened to me, and I'm pretty sure my poor wife watching me shake in a chair and let out the odd squeal, as I'm pretty sure I did. The shock of it all is what put her into labour fully, because there was nothing going on until a few hours after that, and Aslan was uncomfortable as well, so maybe just too much adrenaline hormones anyway. So my disclaimer is to don't fear going to the dentist to have your teeth out, because this is rare and it just doesn't happen. It was the fact the infection was so bad. Normally they'd give you antibiotics and then do it. I'd recommend that if you've got an infection in your bone, because you just don't want the tooth pulling out whilst you can feel it. I promise you, you just don't want that. And the other thing is to pull out your root canals. Do some reading on it. Really bad for you guys. Really, really bad. Like, it can really mess people up. There were some people who were bedbound with chronic fatigue syndrome, had a root canal pulled out, and they were up and about within 6 weeks, back to normal within 8 weeks. After being stuck in bed with nothing but pain and fatigue for years, and then they get one simple tooth pulled out and their body manages to fix everything from there. So anyway, that was our birthing story. Well, actually, it's my birthing of my tooth. We joked because the dentist said, I think that might have hurt more than childbirth to Fritzy. And then, of course, because Fritzy had to have although she's in pain now, I'm not taking the pain away from her. She's in a lot of pain from the surgery. But she didn't have to do all of the pushing, because of the doctor's insistence to do the surgery. So I said, maybe there's some sort of karmic debt in the universe, where the universe was like, you two owe us some pain, so one of you has got to take it. And unfortunately, well, I guess maybe fortunately, it was me. So anyway, God bless, guys.